Welcome to Ill-Equipped History. We're two best friends who are not equipped to do so tell you something interesting from history. I'm Morgan, and I am joined by my lovely co-host and best friend, Emileigh.
Hey, y'all.
How are you doing, Emileigh?
I'm on this planet. I am existing. I am still breathing mostly, and we're good. We're fine. Everything's
Great.
fine.
I'm so happy for you that you're here and existing.
Yes. I am upon this earth. How are you?
Same.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm existing. Yeah.
Yeah. I have been emailing somebody about our October bonus episode.
Spooky trip.
Per usual, procrastinating, and upon
we've been
recording,
busy.
this is still early August, so we're fine. But we're trying to hone down dates and times and get a group together, and I cannot wait. Like, I know summer is still not over for me. I still have time on the boat, but spooky season is coming, y'all, and it's coming fast, and we have to plan ahead for these things.
For me, spooky season starts September 1st. Like, that's fall for me. I know it's still technically summer, but that's the start of fall for me.
I feel that I will start putting fall stuff out in September just because it makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. And then I'll put the Halloween stuff out in October, and then I'll put fall stuff back out in November. Mm-hmm. And then Christmas, obviously we get Christmas stuff. But
why does fall feel so short?
I don't know. Probably because we live in Tennessee and we don't have actual seasons.
That's true. We have hot and cold. It
goes from hot, and then it's like fall, and then it's cold.
Yeah.
And then we go warm, hot, and then it's summer.
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird.
Well, speaking of weather, I think that is a good segue into our skit for today.
Oh my God, it is. I wasn't even thinking about that.
April 14th, 1935, in Oklahoma. The Johnson family is waking up on a clear morning and getting ready for the Palm Sunday church service.
Billy, are you almost ready? We have to leave in the next few minutes to get to church on time.
Yes, Mama. I'm washing my face just like you like.
Good boy. I just checked outside, and it's a beautiful day and not a cloud in the sky. Looks like God has finally given us a reprieve. It's about time. It's hard to keep this house clean with all this dust and hardly any water. I'm not sure how much longer we'll last. We'll make it, dear. My grandfather built this home. I have no intention of leaving.
Billy finishes getting ready, and the family gathers the last of their belongings to begin the drive to their church building. However, the family stops in their tracks as, when they reach the car doors, they feel a scalding hot gust of wind.
No, not today!
He runs around the house to view the expansive fields. To his horror, an enormous black cloud is rapidly advancing toward the home.
Quick! Get inside! Get the blankets! A big one's coming! Go! Go!
The family rushes back inside the house and grabs their quilts off the beds. The family hunkers in the bathroom, the most interior room of the house, with their blankets over their heads as the storm begins assaulting the home. The Johnsons hear wind howling and dust pelting the interior of their house. Dust even begins creeping inside their blankets in the bathroom.
Where are our masks? They're in the living room. I forgot to grab them. They're useless now. Quick, more blankets.
The family piles more blankets over their heads as the storm rages on. After what feels like hours, the winds die down and the Johnsons remove their coverings. The interior of the bathroom is covered in black dust. When they go into the rest of their home, the dust is piled inches thick on every surface. Mr. Johnson has to shovel the dust away from the entryway to open the door to outside. Everywhere they look, the ground and air are covered in thick, black dirt and dust. This event is known as Black Sunday, one of the most devastating dust storms in the U.S. This storm reaches across from Oklahoma to the eastern coast, blackening skies and dumping millions of tons of topsoil across millions of square acres across the eastern United States. This is just one of dozens of storms during the Great Dust Bowl, which will torment Americans for almost a decade.
I'm shooketh.
Be
My
shooketh.
flabbers are gasteth.
Yeah, this one, it's going to be a little, not intense, but it's just going to be.
Damn. Okay.
So I think I'm trying to remember like where I got the inspiration to talk about the Dust Bowl. I think I just saw it in like a passing comment on Reddit, and I was like, oh, because I was trying to think like, what do I want to do? I was thinking about a few people, and I was like, I don't know. Not really feeling a person. I want an event. And then I just saw a comment about the Dust Bowl, and I was like, oh, I've always wanted to learn more about that. So here we go. So let's, again, as usual, talk about what led up to the Dust Bowl. And then we'll talk about more of what it is, when it happened, etc.
Yeah.
So this is during the United States. We're starting in the 1800s. People are settling west. Up to this point, it's really just the eastern United States from the Atlantic coast to the Mississippi River that's really settled and developed. And as the 1800s progress, people start moving westward. We'll get into it. One thing about the West, and we talked about it in the Lewis and Clark episode, the West is really unknown. Yeah. And people were accustomed to the climates of the eastern United States, but the U.S. has a ton of different climate zones, a ton of different humidities, arid types, soil types. It's very, very diverse. So when people were starting to settle the West, there was a lot of people who were financially benefiting from this to spread misinformation about the quote-unquote agricultural potential of especially the Midwest. And people who had been farmers in the East were used to the humid climates of the eastern U.S., which is pretty, again, humid. But the Midwest is really dry. It's very arid. And the farming practices that they use in the East didn't necessarily translate to the Midwest, which we'll talk about. So during and after the Civil War, the U.S. government enacted several land acts that encouraged the settling and farming of the Great Plains. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln passed the Homestead Act. This was a government incentive to increase settlement west of the Mississippi River. So settlers with stipulations would be given 160 acres.
Wow.
To settle on the condition they would, quote unquote, improve and farm it. So there are several requirements. You had to apply to receive this grant. You had to live on the land for 5 years while farming it, improving it, whatever. And then you had to file for a deed for the land within 7 years.
Okay.
You also had to be 21 or older. You had to either be single or the head of your household, and, quote, never have borne arms against the U.S.
Okay.
So I guess if you were a Confederate soldier, you could not be a part of the Homestead Act, or if you were like an enemy of the U.S.
Okay.
But you could be male, female, white, black, no restrictions on race or gender.
Okay.
Or country of origin. So there were several European immigrants that would come in, and they would also participate in the Homestead Act. Through the Homestead Act of 1862, 10% of the Great Plains lands were claimed.
Wow.
Then, building upon the Homestead Act, we have the Kincaid Act of 1904. This was introduced by Moses P. Kincaid. He was a Nebraska congressman. It's weird that, like, the source I read, like, talked about this act. I had to go and, like, find it on, like, one source because there's not a lot about it. But Moses Kincaid was like, I want a very specific branch of farmers and settlers in northwestern Nebraska to get more acres of land. So the Kincaid Act increased the 160 acres to 640 acres in 37 counties in northwestern Nebraska.
Okay.
From 1904 to 1917, 9 million acres of land were claimed by about 14,000 settlers. But
wow.
the soil in this area was very dry. It was very sandy, not good for farming. So most of the farms in this area failed.
Yeah.
Kind of foreshadowing what's to come. And then the final act was the Enlarged Homestead Act of 1909, and this allotted an additional 160 acres in areas where it was difficult to cultivate farmland. Mm-hmm. And then I was reading through a National Park Service website, and it also mentioned that, I'm not going to go into detail, but the Dawes Act allowed settlers to take lands from the indigenous peoples, and it helped facilitate the taking of land from the Native Americans. Again, I'm not getting into it. It's not really relevant to this story, but I just wanted to get it out there. It wasn't all great in the early days, as, you know, the Midwest. I'm focusing on the Midwest here because that's where the Dust Bowl originated. It wasn't all great in the early days because the Midwest is prone to droughts. Again, it's a very dry climate, and very severe winters. But it would all be okay when the rain returned, because the rain always returned. Settlers, politicians, and even some scientists believe the very nature of farming would increase rain in the area. There was this very incorrect belief called rain follows the plow. Where no, that's not how weather works. But
Immediately, no.
This is the 1800s. Knowledge of meteorological systems was still not great. Yeah. Very unfortunate misunderstanding of weather. Yeah. In addition, we've all heard of it, if you live in the United States, manifest destiny. The quote, Americans had a sacred duty to expand west ideology. It was, quote, the belief that white Americans were called by God to expand the United States and spread democracy and capitalism across North America. Mm. And while the majority of settlers were moving out into the plains to settle, it was very unseasonally and unusually rainy. So people believe, like, oh, this is just what it's like all the time. This will be great for farming because there's a lot of rain. Moving forward a few decades, in the 1920s, there was a really big boom in agricultural technology. People were able, like, differences in not only crops, but also, you know, the way to farm the crops. There was more yield in shorter times, less physical labor involved in planting and harvesting. And many of these fancy new machines were purchased on credit, which does play into what we'll talk about in a little bit. As farmers in the 1920s tried to increase their yield, they stopped practicing, like, effective conservation practices, because you have to be very careful when you farm, so you don't, like, strip your land of the nutrients. You don't, you know, there's a lot of thoughtfulness that has to go into farming. But in the 1920s, farmers, you know, that's how they make their money, so they're like, let's just try to get as much money as we can.
Right.
And one of the things that one of my sources mentioned, there was a tool called the lister that was used commonly, but then a lot of people started moving to the one-way disc plow, which is a lot more efficient, but it also dispersed a lot more soil. And there's so many factors that go into just, like, the shitstorm that's coming. The price of wheat started increasing, especially, like, wheat that was being imported from Europe. Because I think, like, Ukraine is, like, the world producer of wheat.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. Huh. Something like that.
Never would have guessed that, honestly.
I know, right? When I read that, I was like, wow.
Huh.
At least it is now. I don't know if it was back in the early 1900s, but a lot of wheat was imported into the U.S. from Europe. But as, you know, the 1910s, 1920s went on, the price kept increasing. And then during World War I, there was a huge demand of wheat. Not only in Europe, but also in the U.S. So farmers started, you know, increasing their farmland to grow more wheat. Millions of acres were plowed, disrupting the native grasses that were in the plains to plant, quote, wheat, corn, and other row crops. None of these were drought resistant. Right. Like the native grasses were. And then, to top off the shit Sunday, in 1929, the Great Depression hits.
It's like the cherry on top.
It really is. All of these things are stacking into place. And the Great Depression hits. The price of wheat drastically reduces, of course. So to make up for the loss in their profits, farmers then start planting even more to try to make money to survive.
Because they've bought everything on credit.
Yes. And now the price of wheat it was like really high and there was a high demand for it. And now like the price of wheat slashed out. It's almost worth nothing now because of the depression. And the final topper, in 1931, the Midwest entered a drought. No more native grasses. So now you have exposed dry dirt that would blow away in the wind.
Yeah.
So
because all their crops are dead.
Yeah.
Because it's a drought.
Right. So the Dust Bowl, this is where we enter the official like Dust Bowl. It lasts from 1930 to 1939.
Oh,
so
my
almost a
God.
decade. Yeah. It's also known as the quote unquote dirty 30s, which is pretty accurate. So the drought started technically in 1930, but then the dust storm started happening in 1931. Right. And it wasn't just one drought. It was about 4 droughts throughout. There was one in 1930 to 1931. There was one in 1934. There was one in 1936. And then another one in 1939 to 1940.
So just as these people were like, okay, we got a good year. We got a good yield. The next year they got a good yield. Another drought would happen.
Well, these events all happened so fast that people couldn't even recover.
Oh, jeez.
Like between the droughts. So like it just kept expounding upon itself. Yeah. Like there was no relief from the droughts until 1940.
Wow.
So not only did it dry up all the soil in the ground, but it also damaged and ruined crops. There's also like horrible heat, the wind, and insects were really bad. And that just further destroyed crop yield. And you have an economic depression, but now you also have an agricultural depression as well, which furthered the effects of the economic depression because now there's no more food being grown for people to eat. It's such a shit show.
But the billionaires are building the Empire State Building right now.
Right.
So
right.
It's fine. Right?
I'm surprised they could even see to build the Empire State Building because we'll talk about the storms are so bad they make it to like the coast.
Oh, what the fuck? Oh my God.
So, and like because of the drought, a lot of people in the Midwest lost access to water themselves, not only for their crops but for themselves. The major states that were impacted were Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, New Mexico. Those were like the center of the Dust Bowl. But like honestly, the entire United States was affected. And not only was it like wheat and other like row crops, but it was also caused by the overgrazing of livestock, which would eat the native grasses. Just all kinds of stuff. So an event began occurring that earned the name Black Blizzards, which were horrible dust storms that were so severe that they would carry topsoil from the southern plains to the eastern coast. Ships in East Coast harbors in the Atlantic Ocean would be covered in dust.
What?
From the Great Plains.
What?
It was so bad. It was so bad the sky, when like in really bad storms, the sky would blacken for days at a time. And it was impossible to escape the dust. Like the interior of people's homes would be coated. All their food would be covered in dust. Every surface in their house, their skin, impossible to escape. Like even the most well-sealed homes would still have dust. And on top of this, many people came down with what was called dust pneumonia.
Yeah.
Which led to chest pain and difficulty breathing. Yeah. And there's no official numbers, but it's thought either hundreds to thousands of people died from lung complications from breathing in all this dust.
I believe it.
It's awful. And I mean, think of children who had to go to school during all this. Students would either be sent home early to try to like beat the storms, or if the storms got bad enough, they would have to sleep at their schoolhouses because it was too unsafe to like try to go home.
Oh my God.
So there was federal aid that started being rolled out in 1932 for like the most affected families, but nothing for drought relief specifically until 1933. So at first it was just like monetary aid.
Right.
And then they started trying to move into actual drought relief. And we'll talk more about the actual policies put in place to help combat the drought, which it's kind of like the high point to this episode. For sure.
Yeah.
In 1932, there were 14 documented dust storms. In 1933, there were 38 individual dust storms.
What? That's like, I'm sorry, 38. That's more than 2 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. Okay.
By 1934, 35 million acres of farmland were unusable, and 125 million acres were losing their topsoil.
I'm so stressed right now.
It was a very stressful time.
Oh my
Everyone was very stressed.
I'm looking at these pictures and I feel so like bad.
It's so sad. On May 11th, 1934, a dust storm darkened the East Coast to the point people couldn't see the Statue of Liberty or the U.S. Capitol building in D.C. Like, this gives me so much anxiety.
Y'all in different countries, I cannot express to you how far away. The United States is huge, y'all.
So I'm gonna Google. I'm just gonna pick Topeka, Kansas, because I think it's a capital. Topeka, Kansas, to New York City. It's over 1,200 miles, and it's pretty much as the crow flies. It's pretty. I don't know if you can see my phone, but yeah, it's pretty straight.
Yeah, that's pretty straight. Oh,
over 1,200 miles. It's almost a 19-hour drive.
And you couldn't see the freaking Statue of Liberty?
There's so much dirt in the air.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. And then, on April 14th, 1935, Black Sunday, which is how we opened our skit. It started in the panhandle of Oklahoma and spread east, dumping 3 million tons of topsoil on the eastern U.S.
Oh my God, I'm getting nauseous thinking about it. Holy shit, that's so much.
Right after this event, Robert Geiger, who's a reporter for the Associated Press, he coined the term Dust Bowl. And so that's how it became known after this event.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about all the stressful stuff, and then we'll start talking about the hopeful stuff. So there is hope.
Okay.
And it does end. In the late 1930s, many farmers were not able to stay on their land. They couldn't make money, and they were being choked out of their homes. So some left, some gave up their land to creditors, others farms were foreclosed on. 10% of farms between 1933 and 1934 changed hands, with half of those being involuntary.
Oh.
It's so sad. Farmers and their families, sometimes with 3 to 4 generations of a family, moved across the country to find work. But again, this is during the Great Depression, and the unemployment rate was 25%.
There was no work.
So now you have even more people trying to find jobs.
There was no work.
That are displaced. So this is actually where hobos come from.
Yeah.
So hobos emerged from the Dust Bowl. These were usually farmers that didn't have any money, didn't have any means of transportation. They would hop on trains and travel from city to city to try to find work. And during this time, about 2 million people became hobos.
Wow.
And within 1 year, I didn't account for the entire decade, but one of my sources said in 1 year, about 6,500 people died from either trying to train hop or were killed by guards that were hired to keep people from jumping on trains.
Man, we're having a hard time. Let them get on the fucking train.
I know. They just want to live. They just want to live.
They're just trying to find work to hopefully make it back and provide for families that they've left behind.
Right. Over the 1930s, 2.5 million people left the Southern Plains.
That's a shit ton of people.
It's called, quote, one of the largest migrations in American history.
Wow.
So a lot of these people kept going west and ended up in California. The problem is that there are already a lot of people in California, and there's no jobs because the unemployment rate is 25%.
I have a math question.
Yeah.
So if only 10% of the farmers had to change hands, of the farm owners had changed their hands, those millions of people, a lot of them, tell me if I'm wrong, were more than likely people that worked on these farms that now don't have a job because the farms can't grow anything.
That and, like, people who own the farms that maybe, like, owned the farmland but couldn't stay there anymore, so then they left.
Right.
Like, they owned their houses, they owned their homes, but it was so, like, they just needed to go somewhere else to find work and to live, and then I think a lot of those people would come back.
Okay, so they owned the home, but they couldn't find the money, so they just had to kind of abandon the home for a while and then come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did see different numbers. Like, I saw in every source, it was different numbers of people, like,
well,
leaving.
How do you even quantify that specifically? Yeah. Like, you can get a roundabout, but
I think the lowest number was like 450,000 and the highest number was like 4 to 5 million. I was like, that seems like really high. So I kind of picked 2.5 million.
Were there even that many people there?
I don't think so. All these immigrants or migrants, all these migrants are coming into other areas, especially California, where there's already a lot of people, and they get the nickname Okies, probably because a lot of them came from Oklahoma. And the people who were called Okies were just, I mean, they were discriminated against. They got like shit wages, menial labor. A lot of them had to live in shanty towns because they couldn't buy houses. I know. And a lot of them like just lived in tents along like irrigation ditches because they had nowhere else to go. And not only were there like conflicts from the migrants with the people already living there, but it completely overwhelmed any of the social services that those towns and cities offered. Yeah. Because, I mean, it was just such an influx of people. And in 1937, the Works Progress Administration reported that, quote, 21% of all rural families in the Great Plains were receiving federal emergency relief.
21%. Wow.
And it's estimated that the cost of the droughts, again, it's very hard to quantify. This is the closest estimate we can get. The cost of the droughts just in like federal funding and relief, not including like the lost crops and damage, was $1 billion in government aid in 1930 money.
I'm sorry. We're going to do math real quick.
I already did.
Oh, thank God.
That is worth $183,571,820 today.
Excuse me while I go throw up a little bit.
I know, right?
The hell? That is an unfathomable amount of money today.
My brain blue screens when I try to think of $183 billion. $1
billion today is a lot. But 100 and something billion.
So here is our savior.
Okay.
The person who's getting us out of this.
Okay.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yay, Roosevelt!
In 1933, FDR takes office, and the first thing that he and Congress do is establish the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, which, not really so much for the Dust Bowl, but for the Depression, it helps stabilize and federally back banks, which also increases the trust in those banks. So we're off to a good start.
Right.
Honestly, this next section is probably just going to be like a list of all the things that happened because so much stuff happened. I'm just kind of go bullet by bullet point.
Yeah.
But FDR like really just responded as fast as possible to help implement new programs to not only help farmers and their families with federal funding, but also reverse erosion and prevent further erosion.
Okay.
From the topsoil. I mean, it took time because this started in 1933.
Right.
It takes until 1939, but there are efforts being made.
Right.
So on May 12, 1933, the Emergency Farm Mortgage Act is passed, and this allocates $200 million to go towards refinancing mortgages for farmers in foreclosure.
Okay.
So they can keep their farms. And the Farm Credit Act of 1933 is a big year. The Farm Credit Act of 1933 establishes local bank and credit associations. Mm-hmm. So now they have like more local associations and farm like credit bureaus that they can stay with. June 18th, 1933, the Civilian Conservation Corps opens the first soil erosion control center in Clayton County, Alabama, where they're like working to reverse erosion or at least stop it. In 3 months, there are 161 soil erosion control centers.
Wow.
Just like scattered about. And 3 million people worked in the forestry and conservation division of the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. They were called, quote unquote, Roosevelt's Forest Army. And they were working to help plant trees and build reservoirs that would help with erosion control and water conservation in the Great Plains.
Okay.
In September of 1933, we've kind of learned it in school. There's something about like if there's excess like crops, a lot of the times they're destroyed because to help with the market and stuff. So in September 1933, 6 million pigs are slaughtered to help with price control, which causes a lot of outrage about all that meat that went to go to waste.
Well, yeah, because people are literally starving to death.
Right, exactly. So by October, so like the next month, the Federal Surplus Relief Corporation is established, and that is to help, quote, divert agricultural commodities to relief organizations.
Okay.
So basically, they will take any kind of excess or surplus and distribute it to people in need.
Thank God.
On a federal level.
Okay.
Right. A lot of, like, common sense things are being done here.
I
Thank
feel
God.
like Roosevelt was the best person to put in this position at this time.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a reason he's the only person that's been elected 4 times.
Yeah, for real. He pulled us out. He saved our butts.
Seriously. In 1934, the drought is the worst in U.S. history up to this point, and 27 states are severely affected, with 75% of the country covered in dust.
Oh my God, that sounds horrid.
I can't imagine. I really can't. So in June of that year, in 1934, the Taylor Grazing Act allows the government to seize 140 million acres of federal land out of the public domain. So, like, this is no longer available. It's ours now.
Yeah.
To establish controlled and monitored grazing districts.
Okay.
So, like, it's under government control, but, like, there is still grazing that can happen, but it's not, like, a free-for-all.
Right.
To allow livestock to continue to eat.
Okay.
Because that's important.
Yes.
And on the same day, June 28th, 1934, the Fraser-Lemke Farm Bankruptcy Act is passed, which prevents banks from repossessing farms until 1947 during quote-unquote times of distress. So now no more farms are being foreclosed upon or being seized by banks because of lack of pay, because everyone is fucking broke.
Everyone's in distress.
Right. A lot of things are passed. I'm just going to go again, like one by one. In January of 1935, the government initiates a buyback program for cattle.
Okay.
So those about like, I think it was like half of the cattle bought by the government or just, unfortunately, they're not fit for consumption, so they're destroyed. But the other half are then given to the FSRC to be distributed.
Okay.
As food goods. And it's actually, even though it kind of sucks that farmers had to sell like their cattle, it helps prevent a lot of farmers from having to file bankruptcy.
Ah.
Because it was like above cost for the cattle.
Okay.
On April 8th, 1935, the Emergency Relief Appropriation Act is created, which authorizes the creation of the Works Progress Administration, which is one of the most successful programs to emerge from the New Deal, which will go on to employ 8.5 million people.
Oh my God. Could you imagine the relief of those 8.5 million people struggling
really?
for years? And what year was that? Did that pass?
1935.
5 years. So almost 6 years, depending on, of them struggling and finding a steady job now.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I can't imagine. The relief doesn't even begin to describe, I'm sure. So from the Works Progress Administration, we have the Prairie States Forestry Project that also emerged in 1935. And this was not only the CCC, but also local farmers that were paid to plant trees all across the Great Plains. And I don't know if I have them somewhere else or not, but the tree planting project spanned from the Canadian border to Texas.
Yeah.
Like all up and down the Midwest. And this was especially helpful to work as windbreaks to help kind of break up all the wind that was pushing all the dust across the U.S.
Jeez.
So there's also the Soil Conservation Act and the Soil Conservation Service that was created and passed after Black Sunday. Because they're like, we got to start getting some shit fixed with all this dust being dumped everywhere. So the Soil Conservation Service actually does still exist today. It's just been renamed to the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Okay.
And I'll call it the SCS. It helped develop and promote restorative and preventative farming techniques to minimize erosion. The SCS also proposed a law where farmers can set up their own districts to, quote, enforce soil conservation practices for 5-year periods.
Okay.
And this is, quote, one of the few grassroots organizations set up by the New Deal still in operation today.
Crazy. Okay.
I know. So now we're getting to the other side.
Yeah.
We're getting to 1938. The efforts that have been taken, soil conservation, erosion prevention, tree planting, improved farming practices, have resulted in 65% reduction in dust storms.
Wow. And how many years did that take?
5. Because he went into office in 1933.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. While a drought is still going on. There is still an active drought going on.
That's really not bad.
Right. In 1939, the rains return. Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God the rains return. So I'm going to kind of summarize everything that we just talked about because it was a lot I just kind of dumped on you guys. So these are the efforts taken across the decade with the New Deal. So conservation and irrigation efforts. Farms actually grew larger with more crop diversity. Federal crop insurance became a standard. Diversified regional economies were instated. New and enlarged reservoirs for water were built. Improved domestic water systems with those reservoirs. A lot of different farm policy changes, like with the more conservationist-minded farming practices. And a lot more insurance and aid programs for farmers. So some of the New Deal laws that were passed during this time were the Agricultural Act, Civilian Conservation Corps, Farm Security Administration, Soil Conservation Services, and the Rural Electrification Act.
Wow.
So just a lot of stuff going on.
Shit ton of stuff.
Shit ton of stuff. But things are really, really improving. Things aren't 100%, out of the weeds yet. There is a pretty big drought in 1950, or in the 1950s that occurred, but people, it seems, have learned their lesson. So the effects were a lot more minimalized due to the preventative efforts.
Yeah.
However, I did see this in a source. I want to look more into it. Apparently, the worst drought in American history occurred in the 80s.
Okay.
And I wanted to go into that a little bit.
Okay.
It is considered, let me see if I wrote it down. I don't think I did. This drought is considered one of the worst natural disasters in the United States.
Really?
And I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
So apparently it was caused by a La Nina in the Pacific. Effects of this drought were observed all across North America, from Canada to northeastern South America, and I think even in China.
Wow.
Like, this drought was huge. It started in the late winter of 1988, I'm assuming like January, February, and effects were already being felt by spring. Many places were getting less than 50% of their typical yearly rainfall. And by the summer, it was horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, the heats were the highest they'd ever, like, heat temperatures were the highest they'd ever been. 45% of the continental U.S. was in extreme drought, and 11 states declared that they were disaster areas.
Wow.
11 states, like, declared all of their counties disaster areas. I have a low and a high count. The deaths that occurred during this drought range from between 5,000 to 10,000.
Holy shit.
From, like, heat stroke and dehydration and loss of access to, like, food. The corn crop yield was cut by 44%.
Oh my God.
Almost halved. I've seen a few things, like the cost of this drought. There's a lot of different prices I saw. I don't know which account for inflation or not. I've seen like $42.4 billion. That may be in like 1988 money.
Right.
I've also seen between $80 to $120 billion, which might be in today's money.
Okay.
But, I mean, this was a disastrous drought. Chicago recorded 7 days of 100-degree temperatures.
Yeah.
And 47 days at or above 90 degrees, which is the highest on record. Like, Chicago's the windy city, right next to a Great Lake.
I was about to say, I mean, that's Tennessee, but, like, that's very abnormal
For Chicago.
for Chicago. Yeah.
Milwaukee had 51 consecutive days without rain. And Minneapolis, these are just the cities that were reported in the sources I read. Minneapolis had 0.22 inches of rain in the month of June, where it normally has about 4 inches of rain.
Whoa.
So very, very little rain. This drought was so bad. You couldn't, like, transport cargo on the Mississippi River because it became too shallow for barges. Yes. In some areas, the Mississippi River dropped by 20 feet.
That's possible?
Apparently.
What?
It got so shallow in some areas, you could see shipwrecks from the 1800s. Like, on the bottom of the Mississippi River.
I bet that was an archaeologist's fucking dream.
I bet, as they were, like,
dying,
becoming dehydrated from
they were becoming
lack of water.
It's like Indiana Jones. Like, the closer they got to the shipwreck, they became skeletons. It just feels like something in Indiana Jones.
But that's how bad the drought was. Like, you could no longer use the Mississippi River for transport.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. What?
And this not only affected the United States, like, the world's food yield was severely impacted.
Wow.
I was reading a New York Times article written in 1988, and they had an economist that was, like, talking to the journalist named Lester R. Brown, and he estimated that because of the drought, there is a 54-day global reserve of grain.
Wow.
So, like, if anything else happens, the world only has enough grain to last 54 days.
What the fuck?
And they only had, like, the stores counted were about 250 million tons of grain versus the average of 1.7 billion tons of grain.
That is such a big discrepancy. Oh my God.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture were like, we have a slightly better estimate that we have about 62 days of grain on Earth.
Oh. Not good.
Yeah.
Don't brag.
Right. So, on to, like, outcomes.
Right.
Which this is my last section. It's a little kind of all over the place. Art and culture were severely impacted by the Dust Bowl. The novel The Grapes of Wrath, written by John Steinbeck in 1939, was actually about a family like migrating from the Great Plains because of the Dust Bowl. So I have this quote I got from John Steinbeck, him describing the flight of families from the Dust Bowl. Quote, "And then the dispossessed were drawn west from Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, from Nevada and Arkansas, families, tribes, dusted out, tractored out, carloads, caravans, homeless and hungry, 20,000 and 50,000 and 100,000 and 200,000. They streamed over the mountains, hungry and restless as ants, scurrying to find work to do, to lift, to push, to pick, to cut, anything. Any burden to bear for food. The kids are hungry. We got no place to live, like ants scurrying for work, for food, and most of all, for land."
Wow.
And that's a section from The Grapes of Wrath. One person that kind of got really famous during this time is photographer Dorothea Lange. She has several very famous photographs. Most of the photographs in the skits that I provided for you were taken by Dorothea Lange. And there's another photographer named Alexandra Hogue, and he also photographed a lot. They both photographed for government agencies to kind of document the horrors of the Dust Bowl. And then musician Woody Guthrie actually wrote an album called Dust Bowl Ballads in 1940. He has very distinct memories of like huddling as a kid, and or not even a kid. I mean, this is right after it ended, but like huddling with his family and like hearing like the shakes of the house and the dust everywhere. The National Drought Mitigation Center, which is one of my sources, claims the most important element in overcoming the Dust Bowl was with the, quote, "perseverance and integrity of the families who worked their hardest to survive wherever they were. Whether they migrated, whether they stayed put, they persevered." And one way they coped was you have to have humor in these situations. So they would tell tales about birds flying backwards to avoid dust in their eyes, or women holding their pots and pans at keyholes to like scour their dishes, like sand blasting basically. And they would tell tales of children who'd never seen rain before, just to kind of like, keep their spirits up. The return of consistent rainfall and the war, helped improve the economic and agricultural conditions of the United States during the 1940s. Some unintended side effects: when the U.S. entered the war, men were conscripted and therefore not working in all the government programs that had been released. And also, the U.S. reallocated like all of their money for the war effort, therefore taking away any drought relief programs. Gasoline and replacement parts were dedicated to the war effort, meaning not anymore for the drought and conservation efforts. And then when the rain returned, people had a very, very short memory and started using damaging farming practices again. Because humans are going to human. Oh, there it is. The Dust Bowl was not the worst drought in the U.S. Apparently, the drought in 1988 to 1989 was, quote, "the most economically devastating natural disaster in the history of the United States."
That is so weird.
I don't know why that's so far below. So there's one more thing I'm going to talk about. It's a person, and I just came across her story, and it's kind of a bittersweet story, but I figured it'd be better than just like ending on like the Dust Bowl. Yeah. So there's a very, very famous photograph that was taken during the Dust Bowl called Migrant Mother, taken by Dorothea Lange.
I remember this picture. I really do.
Yeah. It's iconic, really. So I was reading the story behind this photo. Apparently, like, Dorothea Lange was just like traveling through. She snapped this picture, dipped, and it wasn't until years later the story of who this woman was actually came out. Yeah. So I'm going to tell her story. Okay. Her name is Florence Owens Thompson. She was a Cherokee woman who was born in Oklahoma. She moved to California in the mid-1920s with her first husband, who died of tuberculosis in 1931. So at the start of the Depression, she has 6 kids that she has to provide for by herself. And she found work picking cotton and other crops.
Right.
According to Florence, she picked 450 to 500 pounds of cotton a day.
Oh, my God.
From sun up to sundown. Like, literally, the moment there was daylight to the moment there was no more daylight, she picked cotton. When Lang found her in 1936 in Nipomo, California, she'd had 2 more children with a man named Jim Hill. They were in a car on their way to go find work picking lettuce, and their car broke down.
Yeah.
So Jim and her 2 oldest sons went into town to go get the car fixed, like their radiator broke or something. Yeah. And so Florence and her other kids were kind of like hanging out. And Dorothea had like come up with the story about who this woman was, and it wasn't true. Like, and one of Florence's children was like, I don't think she meant to. I think she just like maybe confused this with someone else because everyone was having a shit time. But like Dorothy had said, like the family was like living in this tent and were surviving on frozen vegetables, and like the mom had to sell her tires to buy food, and that just wasn't true.
Oh.
We're not sure like why the story got misconstrued.
Right.
But the kids were like, I don't even think she asked like what her story was. So again, it may have been like she was like maybe heard someone else's story, attributed it to Florence, and then, you know.
Right.
But the family did continue to roam around for several years. Florence did have 3 more children. So she's got 11 kids at this point.
No.
That's a lot of kids.
That's too many kids.
After World War II, she did finally settle down. She married a man named George Thompson, who was a hospital administrator.
Okay.
In 1978, Florence wrote a letter to the Modesto Bee newspaper claiming she was the woman in the migrant mother photograph, who was anonymous up to this point. No one knew who she was.
Right.
Nothing really happened from that. Like, she didn't get any royalties or anything. Everyone was just like, oh, okay, this person has a name now. In 1983, Florence was suffering from a lot of different health issues, including cancer and heart disease, and she was living by herself in a trailer.
Aww.
But one of her kids, like, solicited donations for her medical care.
Yeah.
And thousands of people responded.
Aww.
They raised $35,000 in donations for her medical treatment. I know. And Florence did die in September 1983, right after she turned 80.
Wow.
Like, right after her birthday. Like, I think within a few days.
Wow.
And Ronald Reagan, who's the president at the time, wrote, quote, Mrs. Thompson's passing represents the loss of an American who symbolizes strength and determination in the midst of the Great Depression.
Beautiful.
I know. And that's what I have on the Dust Bowl.
Wow. Oh, guys, can we take care of the earth? It's literally the only one we've got.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea I got from researching this. Like, we need to be better stewards of our planet.
I mean, seriously, it's like, maybe don't strip all the land. That's literally how the Mayans got run off, is they stripped all the land. They turned their world into turmoil, and then the earth took itself back over. So,
yeah,
because they had to leave. Let's not do that.
Yeah. Honestly, that's, like, a thought I've had. Like, yeah, there's a lot of damage we do to the earth, but once we're gone, the earth will come back. It'll be different.
Yeah, it'll be...
But it'll come back.
Scarred and different, but, like, it don't care.
Trees will grow back. Animals will return when we're not here. So why don't we just, like, try to coexist and try to
The world will
protect
just
it?
be kudzu from here on out. Because that shit will take over overnight if you look away from it.
Yeah, planet will become kudzu.
Only kudzu.
We need to create like a kudzu eating bug or something.
Just get a bunch of goats.
That's true.
They love
That's true.
kudzu. Everyone get your resident goat.
To eat the kudzu to prevent it from destroying your house.
Let's get a president to make like a CCC, but it's for goats, and giving everyone a goat so it eats all the kudzu.
Well, honestly, like I was just thinking, our hometown is covered in it.
Yeah. Oh.
Like especially when you start going out towards like Madisonville and
it's
Etowah and stuff. It's everywhere.
Horrendous. It is horribly invasive. It grows like a foot a day, I think. Yeah. So they really have to fight it. Mm-hmm. It kills trees and everything. It looks like a tree graveyard out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't protect the earth, kudzu will do it for you.
And the kudzu will probably eat your bones too. Like it
probably would.
So invasive. Invade everything.
Well. All right, I'm
tired.
I'm done.
Yeah.
My brain is starting a short circuit.
Let's do socials.
Let's do socials.
Okay, if you like this, you can find us on Facebook.
Ill-Equipped History Podcast Group and page.
Instagram.
At Ill-Equipped History.
TikTok.
At Ill-Equipped History.
Gmail.
Ill-equippedhistory@gmail.com.
And Patreon.
Patreon.com/ill-equippedhistory. You get bonus episodes and stickers if you sign up, so please do it.
Yeah. Be nice to the earth.
Yes. Engage in safe farming practices.
Yeah. Don't rip up all the prairie
social
grass.
programs are good.
Yes. 100%.
FDR is a hero.
Yes. In FDR we believe. Okay, bye.
Bye.